Protein, everything the body needs.
You eat when you want, what you want, and how you want.
Protein pizza burrito time.
What's up, man?
Not a whole lot, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely.
Sam from Avalon.
Yep, from Avalon.
You guys just started this new online community app. I don't even know what you would call it, but I recently joined on. All about health, fitness, habits. I love it.
Yeah, it's a pretty unique thing. And we've obviously been, myself and Kyle, Francis, and Ty, we've been on Twitter for quite a while, and you see it with Twitter coaches all the time saying, hey, if you want to get in shape, you want to get strong, you want to get healthy, you want to change your habits, the one thing that you need to do is to hire a coach, right? Now, that's all fine and good, but for the general, person who's just scrolling through Twitter, running into our accounts, not a lot of them are wanting to spend the amount of money that we charge for one-on-one coaching. That's a legitimate problem that you run into. No matter how many Zoom calls you get on trying to convince people otherwise, people aren't able to afford actual coaching. So we were like, let's figure out a way to bridge this gap. And that's where we came up with this idea of, we get 4 coaches on here with all different specialties. I do basic, barbell strength training. That's my thing for typically beginners and people who are kind of familiar with the gym, but they haven't actually done any serious barbell training. Kyle Chen, he's more of a habit builder, and that's what he does, a lot of habit coaching. And Ty, man, he's a lot of body weight workouts, and it's more like a mindset. You've seen the energy he brings all over Twitter. Amazing dude. And then Francis, obviously, pretty hardcore power lifter, big guy. So, when you get into this as a person coming into this thing, you're able to pull from all 4 of us, all the info you want. I think the overarching theme was, when you get on the internet, when you're trying to make positive health changes, there's just information overload. How many online coaches are there? Here, instead of people sifting through all of that information and trying to figure out what they like, they can just get actual applicable info from the 4 of us. And we all offer no bullshit perspectives. We're not trying to sell you anything. We're here for you to do hard training, for you to get better. And that's really the premise of the whole community. Yeah,
absolutely. When I discovered you on Twitter, I've told you before, there isn't a day that goes by where I'm not agreeing with like half of your tweets, and just like the mindset of the 4 of you guys all put together just seems like a great opportunity for anyone starting out, or just anyone that's interested in those 4 areas: nutrition, strength, habits. Do you want to maybe like tell me a little bit about yourself, of what got you started in nutrition, strength training, some backgrounds from people that may not be familiar with who you are or Avalon as a whole?
Yeah, absolutely. And, this, for me, it dates back basically from growing up as a kid. I had 2 older brothers who were all tall, over 6 foot. I'm 6'4", they're 6'3", whatever. And, growing up, they were both like just skinny bean poles, pretty athletic and stuff. And for whatever reason, I was the opposite of that. I was the chubby kid growing up, the youngest brother, so I kind of grew up just getting used to that. People saying, you're big boned, you're all of those things that people justify. Going into high school, I was out of shape. I was decently talented. I was out of shape. I was basically fat, slow, that kind of thing. And people said, you're decently talented, but you're probably not going to make the junior varsity team because you're out of shape, or you're not going to make the varsity team because you're out of shape. And like, I grew up wanting to play professional baseball from the time I picked one up when I was 5 years old. Then you also have your parents and your loved ones who are like, you're fine just the way you are,
Right.
which they love you and they're not going to tell you that you should probably make some changes and stop going to the cupboard and eating half a box of Oreos. They're probably not going to tell you that. But anyway.
You know what your problem is? It don't work out. Got exercise. Look at me. That's all muscle.
Oh.
You fat. I'm muscle. But I
Oh,
don't
look
work
at my
out.
little Bill. He's a little Hercules. Show me muscle again. Oh, Hercules, Hercules, Hercules.
I didn't grow up in, a really good physical form. I wasn't athletic. Doesn't come naturally to me. So there was that. And then I have a pretty big kyphotic curve in my upper back. I don't know if you've ever watched my lifting videos. Got a pretty big curve up there.
Yeah.
A couple of my vertebrae are actually wedged up at the top. It's pretty kyphotic. So that led to a lot of back pain. And I remember looking online like, hey, how do I fix this? Like, is there posture? Is there anything I can do to make that happen? And again, it's information overload, how to fix your kyphosis. But what I don't know if you've heard of Starting Strength, right?
Yeah.
I happened upon their blog and somebody had posted, hey, I've got this same kyphotic curve, and what's really helped me is just squatting, benching, deadlifting with progressively heavier weights. It's gotten the muscles around my back stronger. It doesn't fix the wedging of the spine, but it makes my back feel better because everything around it gets stronger. And I butchered it. Like everything that Starting Strength tells you not to do, I did. Using the sissy pad on the squat bars. I squatted and deadlifted in running/tennis shoes. I used gloves, I think, even for the deadlifting. Everything that you could possibly imagine as a 16, 17-year-old, I did it. But like, I got decently strong. And what ended up happening was my back started feeling better. And for the first time, I finally had an actual plan. I go in on Monday, I go in on Wednesday, I go in on Friday. And it was something that you add 5 pounds each session. And it was something that I could actually stick to and got me motivated to get in the gym. And my back started feeling better, right? Just because I got stronger. And then at that point, since I started getting healthier, in a little bit better shape.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I can relate to a lot of that. I was the fat kid growing up.
Yep.
Tried so many programs, never stuck to it. I think I did P90X 3 times.
Oh boy.
Which I actually don't think is a bad program, but
No.
But yeah, Starting Strength 5x5. I still go back to the 5x5 program. It's an awesome program for beginner or intermediate athlete in just developing some strength. And like you said, like it's a program that you could stick to, forces you to track, forces you to, take those recovery days that's needed. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing your journey with us.
Yeah.
It's funny. There's a couple of things that you mentioned there that I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, being the fat kid growing up and having that family kind of not wanting to hurt your feelings by letting you continue poor nutritional habits. It's cool that the online world has, I think, initiated this shift in like how you and I were kind of grown up of having the relatives and family not want to hurt your feelings over actually encourage you to make some better, healthier choices.
Yeah.
You know where that come from? Watching that damn TV. Every time you turn it on, they got somebody in there talking about lose weight, get healthy, get in shape. Get everybody looking all anorexic, talking about that's healthy. I know what healthy is.
Yeah, so you're a big advocate of, protein. That's
yes.
why I wanted to have you on here. What kind of started the shift of, understanding the need to prioritize it from like a strength building standpoint?
I think what started was over the course of my 2 years at my junior college, I went from 240 pounds down to about 180 pounds at 6'4".
Oh, wow.
So, and I lifted during that time. We did a bunch of running, and you would not know that at one point I was a really good runner because that's basically all we did. And I bash on running a little bit on Twitter quite a bit, but So I lost a bunch of weight that way. And then as soon as I got to my second college, they told me that I needed to beef up. Now, my problem is that I had been, for the first time when I was 180 pounds, I could see my abs. For the first time in my life. In my 22 years, I could finally see my abs. And when you can finally see that, you don't want to lose them, right? So, but they're telling me I needed to gain weight. So obviously I had this persona in my head of being that fat kid, and I didn't want to just YOLO bulk and lose it all and go back up. So it's like, how can I add muscle mass and maybe slower? What do I got to do? And up to that point, nutrition wasn't really a big thing for me. And, you happen upon, hey, just eat a gram per pound of body weight a day in protein. So, 200 grams of protein. And I got into doing that. Like, that was going to be my one nutritional non-negotiable when I started bulking up. I'm going to hit 200 grams of protein every day, come hell or high water. I don't care about the rest of my macros. I don't care about my carbs. I don't care about my fats. I'm a college kid. I'm going to go party and drink on the weekends. It doesn't matter as long as I hit 200 grams of protein and I get my lifts on and I continue my training. And that allowed me to slowly bulk up to the point, I was 205, 210, probably my senior year of college. And I looked better, heavier than I did when I was down at that 180, So it's just like that low, lean bulk of protein that really helped me. And I didn't even have anything else dialed in up to that point.
Right.
So I just saw right there firsthand how important just hitting your protein mark is without doing anything else. Not worrying about your calories, not worrying about your carbs, your fats, your micros. Nothing else mattered besides that protein mark. And it got me a long ways, So that's why that message that I'm always saying is whatever you do, just focus on hitting your body weight in grams of protein per day. And you'll see enormous changes no matter what your training looks like. That's why I push that so hard. And then from a training and recovery standpoint, it's huge. If you're not getting your protein, you're spinning your wheels. You're basically on a hamster wheel, So the whole idea behind that, it replaces all of the muscle that's damaged and all of that stuff. So as long as you're hitting your protein marks, you're going to see a bunch of gains.
I think there's like two categories of people in the online nutritional world that I've noticed anyway. I want to know if you agree. Like, I feel like there's like this group of beginners that never really understood or even considered macros to begin with, but never really understood the importance of protein in terms of, how much food you actually get when you do start prioritizing it, how full you're going to be for the rest of the day, and, how easy it is to pretty much get a solid foundation of nutrients by doing so. I feel like there's like this other group of people that are kind of developing this orthorexia towards certain food groups where they may be prioritizing protein, but they're scared of carbs, they're scared of fats. And yeah, so I very much agree with what you said. As long as you kind of dial in the protein, you don't really need to worry so much about, the other macros or your carbs or fats. That is a good starting point, if for diet adherence anyway.
Yeah. And that's the big thing is you just need to develop one little habit at a time. And if you start with what I push, especially on clients, is starting with just drinking water, a consistent amount of water every day, just because that's a way to build a habit. And then you go into the protein is the most important thing. And I'm almost going to argue that it's more important than calories. Almost going to argue that.
For sure. I have two rules.
And
hit protein, hit calories.
Yeah.
The one is protein for sure.
See, exactly. And that's the thing. I know I mentioned on a tweet a couple days ago, like if you eat a pound of beef a day and you eat 12 dozen eggs, that gets you to like that 200 gram of protein mark and only 2,000 calories. So the daily recommended calorie mark of 2,000 calories a day, to a lot of people who haven't been in the fitness space, they're like, man, that's so little. I'm going to starve myself. But that's because you're eating. Can we cuss on here, or
Yeah.
do we need to keep? But that's because you're eating fucking potato chips and fucking fries and fucking peanut butter. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you can sit there and eat a dozen eggs and then a pound of beef for 2,000 calories, 200 grams of protein, and people are shocked at that. I could never eat that much.
Right.
But just from a nutrient density standpoint and a budget standpoint,
Yeah.
a pound of beef and a dozen eggs, you can probably get done for $6 a day, which is half of what most people spend on a meal.
Let's talk about tweets.
Yeah.
Recently, you got a hard time with one of your tweets. You're talking about beef and eggs, but there's other sources of protein. Why do you think animal proteins are better than plant-based proteins?
Yeah, so there's the list of essential amino acids, right? And animal-based proteins, so your beef and your chicken and your pork, they have all of them. Now, plant-based proteins, you're going to have to pick and choose different groups from there and put them all together. And even then, it may or may not come out to being a whole protein source. And for me and for a lot of my clients, we're in the business of getting stronger and building muscle. And why would you not use the most bioavailable proteins possible instead of having to pick and choose different gerbil foods and putting them together in some nasty mash? So that's kind of my take on that. I have gotten, what was that tweet that I had a while back? Your protein needs to come from something that once had eyes. Did you see that?
Right.
And I got absolutely obliterated by the vegan Twitter side. And it's fine. Like I will gladly have a discussion with anybody as long as it's cordial, even if we disagree. Like that's kind of why I'm on Twitter. I want to be able to have discussions and see things from a different point of view. But it got to the point where most of it was just personal attacks on what I was doing, what I was promoting, who I am. And then it ended up just being block, block, block. Here's a block for you, block, block. And there was a few that I wanted to see their point of view. I know a couple of guys that piped up in there were actually competitive powerlifters who are vegan now. And so it was interesting talking with them. But the fact of the matter is they got to the point where they were really strong by eating meat and protein and all of that stuff. And then they switched to the veganism for a vanity kind of perspective. Yeah, you're vegan now, but you built baseline not being vegan, so it's an interesting game there.
Dude, you see that in like almost every aspect, every like fixed diet. You got the keto gurus who claim they build this like physique through keto, but it's like, by years back, of course they incorporated carbs. Of course they incorporated like, not being in ketosis all the time. Yeah, so for sure.
But you got to understand that's marketing. That's not based on reality.
I think it's one of the biggest travesties right now in the fitness space is there's a lot of skinnier hard gainers who get on fitness Twitter and see all of this low carb, no sugar, no this, no that. And that is holding them back from gains. Because I'm just trying to remember when I was trying to bulk up, if I had avoided carbs, I would still be a skinny, just a skinny, lanky guy, So you have to be careful with the information that you sift through.
Absolutely. I come from the same background. This whole like nutritional landscape kind of started with me going keto. And yeah, I developed this like fear of carbs, tried to bulk up without it, and I was getting nowhere. It was discouraging. And it's amazing when you do have this understanding of how carbs or any food really could be a tool to your advantage in your goals. if you could offer any advice for, say, someone that's with your body type, a tall guy starting out, what would be, an ideal way to start?
Yeah. So if you're just starting and you're a tall, depending on your age, tall, lanky guy, I'm obviously going to advocate for starting strength right off the bat. And people have a tendency to not understand what starting strength is.
Sure.
It's to get the beginner generally strong. It's not there to put on a ton of muscle mass and make you look like a Greek god like a lot of other programs sell. This is just to get you strong so you're more capable, so you can work out harder and specialize in something else. So my first thing would be starting, if you're tall and lanky and you're 16 to 22, maybe even 25, starting strength, hit a bunch of protein, maybe even do the Go Mad diet. Have you heard of that? The gallon of milk a day?
Oh, no.
So Go Mad, gallon of whole milk a day.
Wow.
That's something that starting strength does with like their young athletes who need to put on a bunch of weight. And so I would advocate for that. And once you get generally strong, the thing about being a tall lifter is these big barbell lifts are pretty taxing on your system. You know, you're moving a lot of weight through long ranges of motion using a lot of joints. So you have to really focus in on your recovery as a tall guy. And you probably can't do it with as much frequency. You know, if I try to squat 3 times a week, fairly heavy, I'm going to be wrecked. Same thing with deadlifts. I'm good for 1 heavy deadlift session a week. So you really got to focus in on that. Get generally strong first, and that's just going to increase your output on everything else. And one thing I am going to add is once you get to that strength point where, you know, you're benching more than your body weight, you're squatting 1.5 times your body weight, and you're deadlifting 2 times your body weight, you really, as a tall guy, need to start hammering more volume in order to grow. That was a mistake I made for a long time since I was in on that, you know, starting strength dogma of just doing 5s and 3s and singles. There wasn't enough volume for me to grow, and I spun my wheels for a long time and didn't see a lot of progress until I started really hammering more high volume accessory work on my weaknesses. You know, a lot more upper back work, a lot more glute, hamstring work, a lot of tricep work. And so you really get strong first, hit your protein, eat a ton, and then you can start prioritizing volume a little bit more, and then you'll really start to blow up.
Cool, man. Well, thanks a lot for your time today.
Absolutely.
Do you want to share where people can find you? Maybe find out a little bit more about Avalon and what have you?
Yeah. I'll start on Twitter. Obviously, you can find me there at samk_strength. And then I've also got the podcast, Ground Zero Fitness Podcast. So if any of your listeners are just straight beginners, that's what that's marketed to, kind of a systematic way to start with building habits, what all the strength training stuff is. Give that a listen. And then obviously you can find Avalon on myself or Kyle Chen's or Ty Tots or Francis's page. We're blowing that up every day to try and grow that community as much as you can. Love to have anybody who's into that. Obviously yourself is in there, which is fantastic.
Sure.
And then I have a couple ebooks that float around a little bit. Don't really promote them too much. And obviously online coaching, but I encourage most people to just check out all the other stuff first to get a feel from where I'm coming from.
Cool. Wicked. Cool, man. Well, you have a great day.
Yeah, I really appreciate this. This was actually my first time being on a podcast that wasn't my own. So this has been good. Yeah.
I know.
Anytime.
Cool. It's cool being on the other end.
Yeah, it is. It's nice.
Yeah. All right, man. Good luck with the tweets.
Oh, all right. Talk to you later, man. Appreciate it.
Cheers.